Hi, this is Srija and welcome to the second episode of my channel. If you're new here, I just want to give a brief idea about what I have talked about previously. There's only been one episode before this, obviously. Um, so this channel is an attempt by me to talk about how I planned my pregnancy. It was a planned pregnancy, and what are the steps that I took to ensure that it happens effectively and maybe fast. It worked for me, so I just share whatever I did and how I tracked my cycles, how I got in tune with my body, and I hope it helps everyone. I also need to talk about other aspects relating to pregnancy as I go on with the journey and based on the experiences that I have. So, as I mentioned, previously I talked mostly about tracking your cycles, what a cycle length was, how to respond to changes in your body, and how to understand them. And so this episode is going to be more about signs that your body gives to let you know that you are approaching that fertile period, which is the right time for you to try, and what are the ways in which you can track or notice those changes. I know I talked about apps and how you could use them to track your cycle and also get an idea about when you're possibly ovulating or when your fertile days are or what your fertile days are. But I'll tell you, of course you must have some idea, but I'll just tell you why I thought I should also depend on a few other factors indicative of my fertile days and ovulation days apart from apps, and why they might not be 100% effective or predictive. So when I say predictive, obviously these apps are predictive. They do not necessarily tell you the exact date or time that you will be fertile or the day you ovulate. Of course, they take your data for however many months that you have been using them for, and they have a certain algorithm that they use to predict your possible future fertile or ovulation days. So I was using one app and I've been using it for a very long time. It's called My Period Calendar, and I was okay with it. I do have I don't have the most regular period cycles, so they couldn't always predict the exact right date. But since I wasn't really trying to conceive, the 1 or 2 days that it was off by was not really consequential to me. So it worked fine for me. I had a rough idea about when I was going to have my periods. But when I started to plan this TTC or trying to conceive journey, I needed it to be more accurate. I needed it to be correct to the T. Planning was not really going my way because as I think I mentioned in the previous video, the cycle before which I started planning, I had a 57-day long cycle, which totally threw all the averages and all the algorithms out of the window. So obviously now I knew that the next day, next prediction or next fertile day prediction or ovulation day or period day prediction, whatever it was likely to be quite off, because now it was going to calculate this 57-day anomaly into the entire whatever maths of it, and probably going to give me a day which was not going to be accurate. So what I did was,
So this is the point at which my pregnancy brain starts blabbering like no one's business. What basically happened was that I looked up the internet for some other good app options and downloaded this one called Flow. It's FLO. Since I was using this for the first time, I had the option to input my average cycle length anew. For this, I took the average of my cycle days for about 6 months without taking the 57-day anomaly into consideration. And voila, I now had a new app predicting new and hopefully more accurate dates for my future fertile and ovulation days.
So this is the first thing that I did before going into tracking or noticing any other changes or bodily signs or anything. I sorted my period tracking app situation or scenario. Just a little tip, if you also have such random cycles in between and you are just going to try and conceive in the next few months, then you could try doing this for a more accurate figure. Now I'll go on to the other signs that not some app but your body gives you, which in tandem with the app is also something that you should be looking out for, and maybe put them all together and use your head and your heart to start planning. Ovulation test kits or ovulation predictor kits. Now this is not something that I had the opportunity or good fortune of being able to use, because my whole conception journey started right when the entire lockdown scenario started, and there were no online deliveries that were happening, and I honestly couldn't find any at that point of time. But in retrospect, when I looked up these things online later on, I did find some options. I'll just tell you what they are first. So ovulation predictor kits work in almost the same way that these Prega News like cheap pregnancy tests work. So they come with a control line and a test line, and in India I think the same brand that makes these iPill and iCans also has this set of ovulation predictor strips, which is called I Know. It's priced at rupees 549 I think, and it comes with 5 predictors. So one kit will have 5 predictors, so you can use them for 5 days. So they do not necessarily show you your ovulation day per se, but when you are more fertile, you will basically have 2 positive lines. So the control and the test line will both show, and you will know that you are fertile now and it is the right time for you to try. Your ovulation day is probably approaching. Number 2 is tracking your cervical fluid or cervical mucus. So as you must be knowing, we go through different kinds of vaginal discharges throughout the entire month, which is indicative of the stage at which our body is. When you have your periods, obviously you do not have any cervical mucus at all, or it's not noticeable. Right after that changes, and it keeps changing, and I'll talk about the different stages along with this representation so you can better understand it. But basically EWCM or egg white cervical mucus is the key word to look out for. So that is when you are most fertile. That is when you should go and try. So EWCM, obviously meaning egg white cervical mucus, will be stretchy. It will be basically stretchy. Just think of an egg white, and you know what I'm talking about, right? So the egg white cervical mucus is actually there to help the sperm swim along through the cervix, uterus, and then reach the fallopian tube to fuse with the egg or whatever. So the pH value that it has, and its viscosity and its consistency and texture, is something that helps to push along the sperm. But basically at this point of time, when you're tracking changes in your body and you see this EWCM, you know it's time for you to try, and it'll help you conceive. Coming to me, I did not have EWCM the month I tried. I was, in fact, honestly, not aware of different kinds of vaginal discharges and what they meant with respect to what stage our fertility was at previously. So, I mean, I really had very low hopes of conceiving from this cycle, because I was like, hey, great, apparently that is the medium to take the sperm along and everything, and I don't have this cycle, so what are my chances? Anyone who's, so I obviously can speak only for my body, but I'm sure I'm not the only person who must have conceived without having egg white survival mucus that month. So I'm gonna tell you it's possible, but I happened to conceive without it the first month of trying. But if it does not work out for you, and if you have been trying for months and you have not been noticing this cervical fluid at that point of time, then you could be looking at alternatives. So there are fertility lubricants, something called Pre-Seed that was brought up a lot, but I do not think it's available in India. But there is an alternative called Conceive Plus, which also has pretty good reviews, and what it does is it kind of mimics the EWCM, and it helps the sperm go through. I'll just read out what it claims. So, Conceive Plus aims to mimic the natural fertile fluids during ovulation and helps maintaining sperm motility and viability for a better chance of fertilization. So that is what it claims to do. So if I had not conceived and I had been trying for a few months without EWCM, I would probably have gone for this. I would have ordered this and given it a try. Why not? So yeah, this is something that you can look at as well. Number 3 is tracking your basal body temperature. What is the basal body temperature? Basal body temperature is basically your temperature at body temperature at complete rest. Okay. So how you have to take this is you have to chart your basal body temperature for a substantial amount of time, at least maybe a month. I was very hurried about it and I did it for a week, but I did get some variation which was indicative of some change, the signs that I was looking out for. So it worked, but ideally if you're starting out charting your basal body temperature, then please take the temperature for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, so basal body temperature is, like I said, temperature that you take of your body at rest. So what I would do is, at rest, as in you cannot get up, go to the loo, come back and take your temperature. You cannot go through your phone and be like, okay fine, I'll just take my temperature now. No, you open your eyes, you have your basal body temperature by your bed, and you just take it. You take the temperature right at that point of time before you have gone through and done any activity, any sort of activity. I asked my partner to measure it for me and note it down. I did not have a special basal thermometer because these since the changes are very very small, it probably helps to have a more detailed or more accurate thermometer for this purpose, but I did not have one. I just used a regular digital thermometer and I charted the changes. I don't have the chart with me anymore, but I have a rough idea of around how my temperature varied. So suppose for 4 days it was 97.8. There was a slight dip before ovulation happened. So maybe it went to 97.2. Okay, and so constant, slight dip indicating ovulation, and then post ovulation, because progesterone is also high, then it becomes high after that, your temperature also goes up. You conceive, it stays up. You do not conceive, it will eventually dip again. So tracking your basal body temperature, tracking your cervical mucus, tracking your period days, obviously, having a ovulation predictor kit, you put them all together and you are likely to come up with a good approximation of when you are likely to be fertile. Please note that I'm not using or stressing as much on ovulation day, because the idea that trying on the day of ovulation and succeeding is not something I would go for at all. It's extremely high risk. I'll explain why. I mean, why I would never rely on that. So try to put all of these things together and get an idea about when your fertile window is. Okay, and then you try. There's also a fourth thing called ovulation pain, or Mittelschmerz, German word I forget, but which basically translates to middle pain indicating pain that happens mid-cycle. So in your, again, textbook 28-day cycle, this is probably likely to occur around day 14 when you ovulate. So a lot of people apparently have this pain in their abdomen, and in the middle of the cycle. It's not PMS, it doesn't happen as late as a PMS, so it's somewhere in the middle of the cycle, and if you're lucky enough to have that pain mid-cycle, then you're likely ovulating. But I do not have any such pain, so yeah, that was not something that went into my calculation, but it is apparently another legit bodily sign that your body gives out to you. I also want to add in a quick note about an ovulation. I did not know about this, but it's something that I googled a lot about when I started thinking about conception or planning to conceive, because I just had that cycle previously, the now infamous 57-day cycle. So I kept thinking, am I even ovulating, or did I not ovulate for a month? Because what's the calculation, what is happening to my body? And so yeah, it is possible for you to not ovulate at all, maybe for a month, or I don't know if it can happen for months at end. But so a month that you do not, or a cycle that you do not ovulate for, is called an anovulatory cycle. So basically, if your periods are too short, too long, too irregular, you do not have any fertile cervical mucus at all ever, or the temperature rise that I was talking about post ovulation, you never notice that. If these are some of the things that happen to you on a regular basis in a consistent manner, then maybe you could visit your doctor. Your doctor is obviously the correct person to tell you if you are having anovulatory cycles or not. But this is something that I looked up during my crazy cycle days and wanted to tell you about. So obviously, if you are having these cycles, then all of these other predictions or tracking, or looking out for signs, won't really make sense. So you're just going to spend a lot of time trying to do a lot of things, but it's not really going to help. So you might as well go to a doctor and go through a good checkup.